All right, guys. So what I'll be doing for the next couple of months, I'll be breaking down trades of entries, analysis, everything that I do on the charts. You know what I'm saying? In terms of trades that I take, accounts that I bought, live accounts, whatever the case is. All right, so we're gonna start here with gold. Gold is pretty much my main pair, and then I have NAS. All right, so I'm gonna pretty much show you guys the bias, the analysis, and everything. All right, so we're gonna start on the monthly time frame. Obviously, we can see that we're in a bullish structure on the higher time frame, the monthly, the weekly, and the daily. Right, so based off of my time frame that I do trade on, which is the daily and the H4, right, for high probability setups. Right, so as you can see here, price came back to around 39.40 to 4,000 area to pretty much gather the bias and go back into the bullish trend because the overall trend is bullish, right? So based off of the H4 and the daily structure, we were in a downtrend and we ended up breaking structure on the H4 and the daily, right? So as you can see here, we pretty much have a consolidation area, right? And we have price being in a high probability area, right? So what price did is consolidated and then broke out of the consolidation, right? So based off of the H4, we were in a bearish trend. And for me, personally, the first break that we did have was this break here on the H4, pretty much, right? So price broke that, made a high on that time frame. Then I pulled out my fib, made it here, and price came back to the 78.6 retracement and pushed up and made a higher high, right? So the H4 structure makes up the daily structure, right? So the low time frame make up the higher time frame. So now that we broke back into the bullish structure, we were looking for price to continue going bullish, right? Or we were looking for a pullback, right? So based off of our Fibonacci, we have this area that we wanted price to pull back to. However, the momentum was so high that it didn't really get to pull back and make an actual higher low. So all these price kept touching 23.6 areas. That means the continuation came back to this area here and did continuation again. And as you can see, it's almost at a TP, right? So based off of my main fib, I would drag my fib from here to here. And then now that next higher low could pretty much actually valid higher low would pretty much come around at 38.2. So let's look at some of the areas that I could have entered. And I wouldn't say I didn't I entered, but I entered in the wrong trend. I was on the low time frame too much, which kind of made me take a few losses. And it's fine. It's something that I've experienced. That's one of my main issues when it comes to the charts. Pretty much being on the low time frame a little bit too much. So pretty much So, as I said, we are looking to continue the bullish move, right? So I'm gonna show you the entries that I could have taken, and everything, right? So if you look right here, this was the area of interest that I was looking at. Usually the 23.6 does turn into the 38.2 eventually, but however, price did not really come back to that area just as yet, right? So based off of price being a high, I went down to the lower time frame. Now, obviously, price came to the resistance twice, and I was looking to sell the market, right? So when we came up, right, I was tracking the bullish pressure. As you can see, we had high lows still being maintained, and then price broke the level of support, right? So when price broke a level of support, I went down to the low time frame, such as the 15 and the 30 minutes, and just waiting for price to retrace before selling off again, right? So this for me, pretty much right here was my last lower high that price made, right? So when it made that, obviously I had my sub fib, which is on the H1, to continue the downtrend, right? To make up the higher time frames, higher low, right? So when it came back there, I was looking for price to kind of react off of this supply area here and sell off. However, it didn't. It ended up pushing up higher to grab more liquidity before going down, right? So I ended up taking an entry here, right? And this is because I was on low time frame. So again, I'm not really low time frame trader. High time frame is the thing for me, but I think I got caught up in the low time frame a little bit too much. So when it came here, I saw price made this here, made a higher low, pushed up higher, right into the same supply area here, and then it made this low high here, right? So on the 5 minutes, if we go down to the 5 minutes, right here would look like price kind of broke. If you drag this right here, I'm gonna put it in pink. And why, if you go down to the 5 minutes, you can see that price pretty much looked like it broke the support, right? So that's what happened for me. So I ended up taking the trade right here on the lower high, right? And I was like, well, it came back here. I was looking for it to continue respecting this area here. So I had up my fib, right? I was looking for it to continue respecting this area here, but it didn't, and my stop loss was above this. So I had the trade right here, right? To the trade here, and my stop loss above that. As you can see, I got stopped out because here was not an actual break. If you go to the 30 minutes time frame that you, or the 15, you'll see that this is one candle. It's tested, right? So then it was not ready as yet. So that was my first loss I took for the week. Right, I think that was on Monday. Yeah, so that lost on the Monday, right? So no, I was like, okay, cool. Let me chill again. Let me wait some more, right? So I ended up, pulling out my trend line, tracking the bullish pressure again. Then we had that break that we were looking for, which is based off of obviously we need to, if we're analyzing on the H1, we need 15 minutes, 15 minutes the minimum to break, right? In order for you to validate the PRC level on whatever fib you're analyzing on, right? So I pretty much had the fib like this still, right? Like this, and I still had this being 100%, so it didn't really break, because if you look at the H4, it was, the candles were giving rejection, so I didn't look at it as a break. I'm saying it was just tested, and the rejection was enough for me to know, hey, price wants to sell off. Right, so I went back into the lower time frame. I saw that price ended up breaking the support. As you can see here, broke support, right? Came out, made a low high, but I wanted price to come back into, the supply area here, because I found that supply area on H1, which is the bearish candle before the bearish push down, right? I wanted it to come back into that. It didn't, right? So I didn't take the trade, right? But how this trade could have been taken, I wouldn't say I would have taken it, because even if you can see, this was one level of resistance, right? And if you took the trade just before the market opened, because this was 9:30 when news came out, I think, if you took the trade here, your stop loss would have to be above, either up here or above this. And then if you had it above this, you would get stopped out based off the wick, right? So I was not interested in that trade, right? But I knew that when price come back down to this support, I wanted to take a buy. However, the only thing is I didn't take the buy because price, I don't trade during London session. So what happened is price came back down to this area here, and it made the higher low, which was enough detail for me to see, hey, okay, price wants to continue that bullish move, right? So I went into the H1 time frame. I saw some candlestick analysis, which was just pretty much the rejection right here. They had that one wick right there, right? And then we had price engulf the previous candle. So when I was on the Zoom with my students, right, I came back on the Zoom with my students, and I was like, okay, cool. We were pretty much gonna see if we get this break, if we get this minor break and it come back, I'll take the trade. The trade did exactly what I wanted it to do. However, it happened during London session and I was sleeping. So the initial trade I would have taken would have been based off of, if you see on the H1 here, pricing go up the previous candle, right? We had the higher low from the H4 that we saw, right? We saw the rejection of the H1, and we go on to the 15 minutes to see the little structure change, because as you can see, you can't really see it here as much, but if you go down to the 5 minutes, you can see it. But I can see it there on that time frame, because you can see this was a lower high that it broke, right? So when it broke that, I said, hey, I was on the Zoom around 10 o'clock. I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna look for an entry around probably in the night, but London session. So the initial trade would have been right here. The initial trade would have been right here, based off of this higher low here. On the 5 minutes, I would have gone onto the 5 minutes actually to see it, and stop loss up below that, which would have been a 100-point trade. You know what I'm saying? And as you can see, boom, went for how many amounts of pips, you know what I'm saying? Just went and went and went. So that was supposed to be my initial trade, you know what I'm saying? But because I was on the lower time frame looking for the sells at the time, which is fine, I have the bias for the sell, because obviously this was the last low high, that's a lower low. I was looking to take price down. But what happened is I wanted price to retrace, because this was 23.6. I wanted price to retrace back to this area here before selling off. However, the trend changed in front of me, which is that minor break along with the details seen on the higher time frame that I missed out on, you know what I'm saying? So that was that. And then there was another trade this morning, again, going against the trend. Again, I thought that, okay, the lower time frame, he made a higher high. Obviously, sellers have to come to the market to sell off, but the market doesn't work like that. You know what I'm saying? You have to wait for the shift to happen. You know what I'm saying? So the market made a high, made like a shoulder right here, right? So sellers were in the market right here. As you can see, these candles showed that sellers were in the market at the time, and then we did break a level of support up here. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, cool. Let me hold up my fib, get ready to take the trade, whatever. You know what I'm saying? End up coming to the 38.2, sold off. So then I had my sub fib on the lower time frame, which would be this, right? So I was looking for sells, right? When I went on to the 5 minutes, I actually even went on to the 1 minute, which is something I don't do. You know what I'm saying? Which is very, very bad of me. But I couldn't even see the fact that price actually broke a level of resistance here, right? And even on the H1, he had an engulfing, I think, no, on the H1, a 30-minute, actually had an engulfing candle, engulfed the previous candle. And then again, it was breaking resistance on the 5 minutes. So while I'm up here looking for trades based off of a supply area, shit, off of a supply area, which would have been, I had I had this lower high here, I had the supply area marked off here. I think it was on the 15 minutes, and I was looking for price to come into this and tap, and I took the sell there. And I literally missed out the fact that price was, even on the 1 minute, price was still making higher lows and did not break any support. So I don't know why I was still looking for sells, but I think it was just, again, it's an emotional thing. You know what I'm saying? It's something that I'm working on to get better with. But I'm starting to do the recording to kind of journal my thing. I don't really journal. Everything is in my head, but I want to put something on a paperwork, either paperworks or on a Zoom. So I pretty much be doing this a bit more often to kind of just show the concept of, my trading and everything, and, my mistakes and everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much, I had like a full week of just losing. You know what I'm saying? Just because I was on the low time frame too much going against the trend. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much it.